The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
International Podcast Day is September 30th, and you can help spread the word. International Podcast Day is dedicated to promoting podcasting worldwide. You may be asking, what can I do to get involved? It's pretty simple. First, head over to internationalpodcastday.com and check the suggestions. Second, use hashtag Podcast Day to join in the conversation. Remember September 30th. Now, let's start the conversation.
And welcome, wrestling fans, to the Ice Hour. This podcast is aimed at promoting the world of Division III college wrestling and is named for the late Hall of Fame coach Dave Eisenhower. Here we'll talk about topics and news that's relevant to those who compete for the love of the sport in Division III. The Ice Hour is sponsored by My House Sports Gear. Check out their line of wrestling gear and apparel at myhousesportsgear.com. Subscribe using your favorite podcasting app by going to mattalkonline.com/ice. Episode 12 of the Ice Hours. We are preparing for another season of Division III wrestling. My name's Jason Bryant here with you for another exciting year of the Ice Hour, again brought to you by My House Sports Gear. Our guest today, the head coach at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, Dave Malecek, or Dave, as you said in the pre-show, you've changed your name over the years that it annoys your mother so much. Let's go through the pronunciation story before we start talking wrestling here.
Well, everybody in my family, except my two brothers and my sister, everybody in my family says it's Malecek. And my nephew who wrestled at the Air Force Academy when you came last year, it's Marcus Malecek. But when I was doing my student teaching in 1994, I was just trying to keep the kids to remember my last name. So I said it's Wheat Checks, Corn Checks, Malecek. And I've always just left it as Malecek. So it's Dave Malecek. And it drives my family nuts. My mom, it's still fine. She won't listen to this, I hope. But she, yeah.
You hope.
That, Jason. So you can say Malecek or Malecek. I'll answer to both, but I've been going by Malecek for 20-some years now.
All right. So see, now you've told me the actual, the real, literal, correct version of it based on the birth certificate and the family lineage. Now I'm going to be like, crap, I just got it right. Now it's like, Malecek. Yeah. Anyway.
Hey, call me Dave. It's all good, Jason.
Sure thing, Dave. Now, big year for La Crosse coming up as you guys are again going to be the host of the NCAA Division III championships at the La Crosse Center on March 10th and 11th. And I've been to La Crosse on two occasions for the previous Division III championships that have been held there. There have been numerous ones there. But this is one of my favorite cities when it comes to wrestling and for hosting of the championships. Now, Cedar Rapids did a great job. I loved Hershey as well. But something about La Crosse, this is a special place. What makes having the Division IIIs in La Crosse that so much fun for you guys?
Well, I think, Jason, it is a lot of fun. And being to so many national tournaments as a coach and then being a spectator at the Division I national tournaments, we're trying to make it as fan-friendly. We're trying to make it as easy for our coaches, and we want the best experience for our athletes. And that's no salesmanship there. That's just really what we're trying to do. And when I got here 11 years ago, I kept asking our AD then, hey, we need to host the NCAA championships. We have the city for it. We have the facilities. We have everything. And people are excited about wrestling here in the Midwest and really excited about wrestling in the city of La Crosse. So having it downtown, Jason, as you've been here before, it keeps getting better. You know, Kim Bloom, our athletic director now, is assistant AD then and does a phenomenal job of running the tournament. Aaron Thacker is going to run it this year with Kim watching. And it really comes down to putting the right people in the right places for that national tournament. We've had our site visit already by the NCAA championships. That went over, just awesome facility. And the convenience is number one. Warm-up mats. We'll have more warm-up mats than anybody else has had. We'll have 4 mats down there for them to warm up. You're close to everything. You don't have to drive. All your food, your restaurants, everything you need as a spectator, a coach, and an athlete is within walking distance. You park your car, you're in your hotel, there's skywalks because you never can tell with the weather in Wisconsin. It's just the perfect spot to have it. So I encourage everybody to come on out, and you're going to see where you want to try to go break that attendance record that Hershey has from a couple years ago. And like you said, Jason, Cedar Rapids did a great job, and everybody that's hosted does a great job. We just want to make it that much better.
And I'll say this, and this show is not actually financed by the NCAA, so I can actually make a reference, and this isn't also anything from the school there, but I'll say this, folks, if you're a wrestling fan and you like to have fun at wrestling events. I will say La Crosse, Wisconsin is at one of the most fun places I've ever had. And it may or may not be because a buddy of mine from Virginia was a bartender at one of the numerous establishments in the place. And I guess, Coach, as a Division III wrestling coach, you can't really talk about the establishments much when talking about how great the city is. But there's a lot of places for those of us that are of the adult age to have plenty of socialization and wrestling talk.
Yeah, definitely. Plenty of wrestling talk. I mean, it's really nice. A lot of the sponsors that we've had that support athletics that are going to be opening up their businesses and really welcoming college wrestling fans to the La Crosse Center. Welcome to the city. As you said, Jason, plenty of social areas, many choices. It's not like just one or two, or you got to drive a couple miles. You will walk across the street from the arena. If you want ice cream, you want pizza, you want adult beverages, you want family atmosphere, you want adult atmosphere, it's all right there, right down by the La Crosse Center. And once again, those businesses are excited to have all of you fans come and check out this great city of La Crosse.
If you even want alligator, you can get it there.
Yeah, Buzzard Billy's, man.
Oh, the things I remember. And
only in Wisconsin will you get alligator.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure somebody over here in Minnesota have probably got a gator in a lake somewhere, but you never know. I mean, we got plenty of them. Although I understand I understand there's a little battle between Minnesota and Wisconsin about the number of lakes. Which state has the most? And I actually was talking with a friend of mine, Joe Bush. He told me he lives in Wisconsin now, up near Stevens Point. He goes, Wisconsin's got more lakes than Minnesota. And I'm like,
They do. I just saw that the other day, Jason. They have over 12,000 lakes here. But we claim to be the dairy state, which now California has more dairy producing. So I don't know where to run with this, and I don't know why we're talking about it on a wrestling show. But yes, we have more lakes than Minnesota.
Well, because I live in Minnesota, and there's another. I'm going to talk about this Minnesota connection here in a moment. We've talked about it a little bit on other shows and other shows on this network. But here's the key. I looked this up. Wisconsin's counting their lakes as anything that's like more than it's like a pond. In Minnesota, it's got to be over like 10 acres to count or something. So, anyway. Now, as we talk about we're going off the rails here as here on the Ice Hour. But another thing about the Division III championships is this has become an event that's being bid on by a lot more places now. I mean, I've got people from my home state of Virginia that are interested in bidding on it. There's cities all over the place, and this is going to be a lot more competitive for La Crosse to get future events. So why is it important for University of Wisconsin La Crosse and the La Crosse community to really come out and make sure that you guys can keep this thing here, or at least get it here every so often, because a lot of places want this tournament now.
Right. A lot of people are going to try to host it, and I'm sure a lot of places will do a great job. I just think what we have to offer, Jason, and you could probably argue with the East Coast teams flying in, they'd have to fly into Minneapolis, they can fly into La Crosse, you can fly into Chicago on the drive. You never know on the weather. But if you want the wrestling fans, and I think they'll come, even if they come all the way from the East Coast, or we get Pacific to bring their guys, coming from the West Coast, we're going to put on a show where the hospitality is second to none. You're going to get an opportunity to see some great wrestling. You're going to be close to the athletes. It's going to be convenient for the coaches, the athletes. We're going to do everything we can to make it a great show. And you know what? We want to keep bringing it back. I love hosting. It's a lot of work. Yeah, I appreciate my administration, but I just love this city really just grasps that we have great wrestling here in the Midwest and really great wrestling right here in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And just to have family and friends and alumni back, it means a lot to us, Jason. I mean, we don't take this lightly. It's been something we've been working on for quite a few times. We'll put more bids in. I just think that the experience that the student athletes will have and that the coaches will have and fans, we're a great place to have it.
Shifting gears a bit to the state of Wisconsin, you talked about the fan base there and the layout of the state when it comes to college wrestling. We just have the one Division I program, the University of Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin Parkside Division II program, and then the rest are Division IIIs. And let's talk about that competitive nature between programs like Whitewater and Platteville and Oshkosh and Lakeland College. I mean, what's that like to be in that coaching environment where a lot of you've, like Tim Fader went from La Crosse to Whitewater to Eau Claire. I mean, he's coached at a couple of those schools now. I mean, there's those rivalries there and those friendships that exist. What's it like competing against those other Wisconsin schools within the state?
Well, Jason, I think it's a great conference. You look at overall sports and from football to basketball to baseball to track and field, and and especially wrestling, it's competitive at the national level. It's not just the conference level. But I think you're finding that every university in the state system has some phenomenal coaches. There's great coaches at every place, and even schools that are in our conference, from MSOE with Maggie Zawaska to Lakeland to everybody that in Concordia, everybody has great coaches that are out recruiting hard, that are working for their university and doing the best job they can represent. But there are some heated rivalries. There's traditions on all different programs, but it's one that you look forward to. You don't take any of those duels lightly. You get after each one of them, and you try to be as cordial and friendly as you can. As I've gotten older, Jason, over the years, of really kind of not really letting that guard down, but really trying to get to know those guys a little bit better, and all of them are great. I have a ton of respect for Johnny Johnson up at Stevens Point. I think he's a great coach and has become a pretty good friend, and actually a little bit of a mentor there of asking him questions. He's been around for quite a while. So, yeah, there's some great coaches and quality athletes, and they're all working really hard to try to win that conference championship.
Yeah, and how important is that with the way the regional alignment is in Division III? We'll talk about that later on in the program because that's kind of a hot button issue right now. But within the conference tournament, you still hold the conference tournament, and even though that's not a qualifier for nationals anymore, how heated is the WIAC championships now? Even though, despite the fact that it's not, there's qualifiers not on the line.
It is. It's very heated, and I look forward to that tournament. And it used to be our national qualifier. Now it's a conference championship, and we had won 14 in a row, and now I think we've lost the last 4. We've got second 4 years in a row to Whitewater, and there for a while, I think we did. We took it for granted. We're looking more at the national level, and Whitewater did a great job and built a great program, and Ned continues that on, and it's a heated tournament, and you look forward to it because you want to be a conference champ. Our athletic administration puts some emphasis on being conference champions. You want to be WIAC champions, and secures you if you're winning conference championships. That puts you in place at the national level. So I don't know how other schools do it with their conferences, but I do know here in the Wisconsin Conference that it is very important. You work hard towards it. We have it marked on our calendar. We go to UW-Platteville, and Mike Drone down there for Platteville. It's going to be a heated battle down there. We switched it to a Friday. And we'll definitely gear up. It's an individual tournament, and we're going to go out and try to win a conference championship.
Now, as we talk about the coaching landscape of Division III, you've got a number of Division I All-American wrestlers that are coaching in Division III. You're one of them, but it's not as robust as, with over 100 schools now. There's plenty of All-Americans to go around. But what have you discovered about Division III from your time at Wartburg as assistant now and your time as a head coach at La Crosse that really you think that maybe these Division I guys they're coming off the mats that want to be coaches really need to give Division III a look?
They do, and I think that, and really the coaches that came before us in Division III just did a great job of really building and marketing and branding the Division III. That there's great wrestling here. There's some guys that it can hold their own against anybody, and you can mention some of the names of guys. We had quite a few guys here at UWL, from Ryan Allen to Jason Loloff to Josh Chelf to Bebeto Yiwa, that all placed high at the Midlands. They were battling with some really good guys, and I think the level of wrestling at Division III is getting better and keeps getting better. I think that the Division I guys, you kind of find out that it's not 24/7 and year round. I mean, our guys get breaks and they do a good job of, being a student athlete, not just focusing all on wrestling. There's no scholarships on the line here. They're here for the love of wrestling. They love the university. They want to continue their wrestling career and try to reach some pretty high goals and standards that we have set as a coaching staff and as a team of what they want to accomplish. But you're not missing out by coming to Division III. I tell that to kids all the time, that you're not going to miss out. You're going to see great competition. Last year we wrestled Air Force Academy, Division I school, and then we wrestled Upper Iowa, Division II school, and all these open tournaments. We see a ton of great competition. So I think you see guys coming from Division I, and I didn't know enough about it, but Coach Miller at Wartburg, where I was assistant for him, really educated me and kind of really showed me and demonstrated what it's like to have a successful Division III program. Obviously, we're not at their level, but we've done some good things here at La Crosse. But man, it's, as a coach too, you get an opportunity to be a dad. You get an opportunity to be a husband. You get an opportunity to really see these guys grow and go on. We've had guys go on to be lawyers, and we got guys in medical school. We got guys all over the place. I tell you what, I love Division III. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. I just absolutely love it here.
And you mentioned Jim Miller at Wartburg, of course, guy. It's got a couple championships, and you'd said that you were absent the day he was handing out the seminar on how to win championships, and that Eric Keller, Nick Mitchell were there, and you missed that day.
I must have missed that day. I vaguely remember we had a meeting. He said he was going to hand out some kind of booklet, and I didn't know what he was talking about. So I went and had coffee with this young lady and ended up marrying her. So I kind of won the championship there. But I missed that day. I always teased Keller and Mitchell that he must have handed it out the day I was gone. But Nick Mitchell's done a phenomenal job at Grandview, and obviously Keller's continuing on the ways at Wartburg and done a great job.
You've got that history there, but let's look at it from a coaching standpoint, as a fan standpoint. How much? I mean, you guys have been really close to. There was that run where national duels. You guys you're right there, battling Augsburg and Wartburg. And what's it going to take to knock one of them off? It not be a Berg win a national championship?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you've asked me that a couple times, and I think I've changed my answer.
I want to get a different answer. Yeah, let's get a different take on this one.
Yeah, let's just get a different answer. I think that. Oh God, obviously I don't have the answer. Yeah, we've finished second a couple times, and we've been in the finals of national duels, and we've had a pretty good run. We're back rebuilding again and trying to get back up in that level. And we were sixth this past year, but I think it's going to take a pretty solid team. I mean, I think there's great coaches everywhere. I think that I don't think that you really try to beat Augsburg or Wartburg. You try to take care of yourself and just really build the best team that you can and have things go your way. And I think that you look at some teams around the country, whether it's Messiah or Wabash or Whitewater or, oh God, you can look at Cortland. There's tons of teams, great coaches, great staff, great athletes. They just got to put it all together at the right weekend. And that's to be seen. But I think you start worrying too much about their schools. You got to really just kind of take care of yourself. And that's probably been my focus. And we've had the most success when we just take care of ourselves. Does that answer your question, Jason?
Best I'm going to get, I think, this year. We'll try again next year.
Okay.
One thing I love about the Division III championships is how unpredictable it is. And I remember when I was in lacrosse with Shane Sparks a couple years ago, that was the year I introduced him to Dell's Bar and its Bloody Marys. And we won't really go.
Best in the United States.
They're amazing. And I'm not a Bloody Mary guy, but they're good. But so I got up there and I was doing this little top 10 list of kind of having a little bit of fun with it. And it was kind of weird because there's Lee Kemp and his family sitting in front of me going like, what's this guy doing? I was expecting like the little room like we had in Cedar Rapids. I'm up in front of this boardroom of dignitaries. I'm like, all right, this is going over like a fart in church. But what I remember about the tournament is like there's always a one seed that loses in the first round. There's always great matchups, and there's crazy finals. And one of the finals, there's been situations where your guy has come out on top of one of these crazy finals, and you mentioned him earlier, Bebeto Yewa, and then the same thing that he kind of did the year before it happened to him. I mean, what's it like as a coach to see these tremendous matchups, knowing that you've got kids coming from D1, you got kids coming from JUCO, you got kids that have been at these places to start with that just do you get caught up in those moments sometimes, like when these upsets happen as a coach because D3 is just that unpredictable?
And you said it just right. Yeah, I do, Jason. You use it to your favor and it's like, hey, it can happen to anybody. Usually we don't have a bunch of number one seeds coming in. No one really does. You got a bunch of seeded guys, and anything can happen at that tournament. You see it. You said it earlier, Jason. It happens every round, happens every tournament. I remember that wild match with Bebeto Yewa in the finals against the Augsburg kid. I think it ended up like 14-12. We came up on top for when B won his first national title, and then his senior year, he got beat in the finals by the kid from Wartburg. And that's just the ups and downs of it. And that's what should bring fans to it. You do not know. I mean, there was a number one seed, I think, from Ursinus last year at 149 and got upset first round. I mean, I think Engel beat him, right, from Cornell. I mean, it's crazy the stuff that goes on, and being behind where you guys are sitting, obviously at the head table, you behind it, people walking back and forth. I mean, it probably is the craziest. Now, maybe not as crazy as it's more crazy, than it is Division I, because that usually pans out and it's close to the seeds. But Division III, you have no idea. That's why they got to wrestle the matches, and anybody can win that tournament. I mean, look how many guys were unseeded, and you called it in the final. Shane Sparks called it play-by-play, and you had the head table. But how many unseeded guys were in the final one? I mean, Brokaw at 133. You got Angles in the final, unseeded from Cornell at 149. I mean, you had a bunch of guys unseeded in the finals and or winning national championships. That's crazy, Jason.
Well, and then, of course, you got the hammers that come in. And a lot of people, when they look at Division III, they're waiting for the D1 transfer to come in and just wreck shop. I mean, we've had that. Elmhurst had a couple guys a couple years ago, with your Ryan Praters and your Mike Benefields. But there's also guys that come in from D1 that don't mop up. And,
right. Right.
I mean, you've had some guys come in from D1 that have, they've had great seasons. All of a sudden they get to the national tournament. I mean, I'm looking at Michael Schmitz, who's been a couple time, he was multiple time All-American for you, but he was a D1 kid coming out of Stewartville, Minnesota, going to Missouri, and then comes up at your place. And what was it like for you to get him to adjust to say, hey, yeah, you were at Missouri, but guess what? Our kids wrestle tough here too.
Right. And that was more just talking. I mean, he spent a summer was all, and that goes back to what we talked about earlier. He spent his summer at Missouri, and they're, practicing or working out every day, and he wasn't a grinder and wanted to go every day. And so he wanted that opportunity. So he came up and had to sit a full year, and then went and was a 4-time All-American and a national champ for us, and had a great career. But yeah, it was nice to get a kid of his talent. But I mean, we had our ups and downs with him too, as the growing pains with every student athlete. But he was great to have in that lineup and could score points. But we've had quite a few guys that you see at the national tournament, like you were saying, that are Division I, but everybody's like, oh, that school gets transfers. Hey, those guys are going to go somewhere anyway. So it doesn't matter where they go. If you're fortunate enough to get one in your lineup, as some teams are getting them from the East Coast, some in the Midwest, some out West are getting D1 transfers. That's all part of it. And so to sit and complain about it's a waste of your time, but you just got to, hey, they're going to end up somewhere. You just hope maybe they end up with you. Maybe they're a good fit, maybe not. And you just try to make the best out of it and develop your guys that you have. And like I said earlier, you just worry about your team, and all things will happen for a purpose.
Now, as we move to back to the Minnesota theme here, I live in New Brighton, Minnesota. That's where I'm recording the show from right now. And about 3/4 of a mile to, let's see, if I go east, 3/4 of a mile, there's a place called Irondale High School. And you know a little bit about Irondale High School.
Yeah, it's on my GPS. I went there a lot. We had 3 brothers wrestle for us, Derek Wyman, and then also we have twins that are seniors, Dustin and Ryan Wyman. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to make sure I list Ryan first. Ryan first, and then Dustin, because Dustin's kind of the alpha male. And so, joking aside, Ryan and Wyman and Dustin Wyman are both seniors for us this year. Multiple academic All-Americans, and Dustin finished 3rd this year at the NCAA championships after getting beat first round, and Ryan was a match from placing, and Ryan's been a 2-time national qualifier, and Dustin qualified as a freshman and then got 3rd this past year as a junior.
Yeah, and so as of last year's team, you had 9 Minnesota natives on the roster, and we talked about this a little bit after you guys had come out and wrestled Augsburg, that being geographically where you guys are right there on the river, I mean, you can just go right across the river. You're pulling in Minnesota kids. You got great wrestling talent in Wisconsin as well. I mean, you're really in a fertile place to recruit athletes to Wisconsin lacrosse.
We'd like to think that, Jason. I mean, it's convenience of being closer to home. We've got pretty good ties with obviously our Wisconsin schools and our Wisconsin high schools, and we work really hard at getting the Wisconsin kids, and we work really hard at trying to get Minnesota. As you stated, Wisconsin has great wrestling. Minnesota has great wrestling. They have phenomenal kids up there that train hard with Minnesota Storm and all their high school stuff that they have. And that state tournament is something else to see and recruit at. And I tell you what, we are in a great spot. We're just across the river from Iowa also, and it's tough to get kids out of Iowa because, 26 schools in the state of Iowa. You were listing the schools in Wisconsin that have college wrestling. How about in Iowa? There's 26, Jason. And so to get a kid out of Iowa, we feel pretty fortunate. But, we're right in the hotbed and not too far from the great state of Illinois. And we even have one kid on our team from Kansas. So we allow one kid from Kansas a year.
Yeah, I got nothing on that. One thing is I'm looking through the roster here, and it just there's a name that jumps out at me, and I got to know. I probably should have done my research a little better here. Kid from Sparta, Brock Polhamus. Any relation to the professional rodeo announcer?
No, he is not.
Okay,
but that's a great question.
Well, the reason here is because I see the name and I'm like, wait a minute. Rich Bender is Rich Bender, the executive director of USA Wrestling, is a lacrosse grad. And he's a rodeo
alum, correct.
He's a rodeo guy, and he got one of our interns, actually Sam Saraki, who is also a lacrosse grad, to write a story.
He worked in my office. Sam Saraki worked in my office when she was here at UWL. What a phenomenal person.
So as we get there, Rich had gotten Sam to write a story for Gary in the magazine on Boyd Polhamus, a professional rodeo announcer who has a wrestling background. So I was wondering if that was a tie there. It's just too quirky. I don't know.
Too quirky. You got to ask. Jason.
I got to ask that question. That's something that jumped out at me. Like, wait a minute. So plus we get Brock's name mentioned here on the program. Now,
Brock, you'll be excited about that.
One thing that we want to touch on, and now this will be touched on a lot more in depth on a future episode of the Ice Hour, is the regional alignment that has just come out from Division III wrestling coaches, and based on the pulse I'm getting on social media, not a whole lot of people are too excited about, I guess, the lack of a realignment for 2016 and 17. With we got new programs added and no movement in terms of the regional breakdown. What's your opinion on what came down with the regional alignments, and what are your thoughts here?
Well, that is a hot topic. It is, it's a tough situation because I think that. You look at it. We were gonna move regionals, and we had meetings on it, and there were some suggestions of where to move people to different regionals, and La Crosse was one of them. We were going to move up to the West Regional, where Concordia and St. John's and all them are in that regional, and felt like that even out the not really playing field, but the number of teams per regional. I think right now currently the West one, I think it's 11 or 12, and everybody else has got 15 to 18 to 19 teams in their regional. They kind of came through, and all of a sudden we get a contact saying that they're not going to be any changes. Every regional is getting some teams added to it, and except the West. And so you go from the smallest regional, stayed the smallest, and everybody else added teams. And I've said this all along. I mean, every regional's got great wrestling. There is great wrestling in every regional you go to. But I think the thing is that you get to the point where there's less teams. And, with one only has 11. I don't know if Maranatha Baptist is back this year or not. So you got one regional with 11. Everybody else added from 15 to 17 to 19 teams. I think that's the hot button right there. And I'll go back to it, Jason. We met the coaches convention. We did some surveys. I think people are in favor. They gave us a proposal. We looked at it as coaches. And obviously, I don't know all the behind the scenes and how it works with NCAA or NCAA championship committees. I just know as a coach, I needed to fill this survey out. I needed to give my input of what I thought was right for our student athletes and for the sport of wrestling. Gave that input, and I wanted the changes to be made. Now for regionals, we're going to be driving the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, going to drive all the way out to Fort Wayne, Indiana for a regional. And as we drive that way, you got 3 schools in our conference driving, or 4 schools in the state of Wisconsin driving right by us to go to Minnesota. But yet we go out to Fort Wayne, Indiana. So it's not a pity party. We're not like, oh, woe is La Crosse. Hey, we're just trying to figure out what's best for the Division III and Division III wrestling and doing the right thing. Maybe add some more teams to that West Regional. Because as I said, it's going to be tough wherever you go. But if we're trying to get the best athletes to the NCAA championships, then we need to do something about our regional alignment. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and in case you're wondering, I actually did speak. Well, I emailed Rob Thompson, the athletic director at Maranatha Baptist. They are no longer going to be sponsoring wrestling moving forward. They didn't field a team in 14 and 15 or last year. And they have ended the wrestling program, and according to them, no plans to restart. So that'll put the West region at 11. Now, with these new teams, in case those are wondering, there are some new teams. They're popping up everywhere. We just lost Daniel Webster as that school closed. But what happened was New England College is starting up, and they hired Coach Archambault from Daniel Webster. So essentially, there's a push there. We've got a new program. One's closing, and we started one up. But Castleton and New England College will join the Northeast region. Southern Virginia now in their first year of eligibility. In the East region, that is a school moving from an NCAA club program for the last 15 years, now full Division III member. Keystone in the Mid-East region is a new program. Otterbein and Thomas More in the Midwest. McMurray with its reinstated program, and Nebraska Wesleyan with 2 programs there in the Central. Of course, the West stays put. But now here's one thing.
Jason, if you look at it, you look at a non-wrestling fan, or you look at anybody and you show them the chart, and there's only 11 teams in one regional, but everybody else has got more. No other sport does it that way, and no other qualifying system is that way. And so you got to ask the question, why is it, and why does one only have, the opportunity to do what we need to do as coaches to make small changes for this upcoming year. We were kind of told that's what was going to happen, or led to believe that's what was going to happen, and it didn't. So, I'm obviously still looking into it and still asking questions. There are a lot of coaches emailing and calling and texting. We're trying to get some stuff figured out, but it's something that's got to change.
Now, I do have one question as it relates to coaches within the Wisconsin Conference. The way I'm looking at it, we've got the entire Iowa Conference is in the Central region. Now, that one doesn't seem to be splintered. Now, the WIAC is split between the West and the Midwest. Do you guys want to be in the same qualifier, or is that something that's really not a big issue for the conference coaches?
Well, I don't know if we've ever been asked that, if we all had to stay together. Obviously, I think we all want to. We all want to go to the West. Obviously, geographically, you look where it puts us. And are we going out to Ohio Northern, and now we're going to Fort Wayne, Indiana, or Wabash College in Indiana? Or can we drive or host, or can we drive to Minneapolis, which is 2 hours and 15 minutes for our regionals? I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense geography-wise of where we're going to the regional. Is that regional? You got Augsburg, Concordia. You got some great teams up in that one in Minnesota. And, it's going to get better. Those schools from St. Olaf and everybody else is going to get better. But still, when there's only 11 teams compared to we go to the Midwest, now we're going to have 17 teams in a 2-day tournament. That's a big difference, Jason.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're going to have some coaches talk about probably a little more verbosely than you have on the next episode of the Ice Hour. I'm digging up on that, and with my involvement in Division III and how much I love the tournament, I'm curious on what's going to happen as well. I'm excited to be back, coming back to the microphone this year in D3 as well. So, Coach Malecek, let's just briefly, while we got a chance to talk about this year's team, what are you looking forward from your program, and what can we see on the mats from the Eagles this year?
Well, I think you're going to see a solid team up and down. I feel like we got pretty good guys at 125 all the way up to heavyweight. We got some guys moving around different weight classes. We got some guys that are, had a great spring and summer and are excited to get back on the mat this fall when we start practice October 10th. I think that you're going to see guys that, we're going to be pretty aggressive and enjoy the process all year long, because there's a little added motivation that if we do everything right each day, you get an opportunity to wrestle at home. And no one else in Division III can say that. We get that opportunity, and I know they're striving for it. They got pretty high goals and aspirations, but we got to take care of business starting October 10th every day just to give ourselves that opportunity.
So here on the Ice Hour, I've been talking with Dave Malecek, if you're from his family, Malecek if you're from anywhere else, here on the episode. So final thoughts this season. What are we excited? You're hosting again, Division III. I mean, wrestling fans, pay attention.
Hey, I tell you what, we got a lot going on. We got a great Candlewood Sweet Duels. I know I wanted to mention that, Jason. How we call that kind of the pre-national tournament right before Christmas. Warburg's here, Augsburg's here, Whitewater's here, Stevens Point, Cornell, Loras. And we got some great teams, Olivet, North Central. There's 10 teams coming in battling duels on Saturday. And it's a real good test right before Christmas. But we just love hosting. We got a lot of great things going on, some big stuff coming up in the future with what we're going to host here. And I'm just real excited and real proud to be the coach here at UW La Crosse.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.